Heather, welcome to the InsurTechTalk. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me and having CLARA Analytics on your show today.
My pleasure. So, what are two good things that happened to you today so far?
Yeah, I got 4 loads of laundry done before my 9 a.m. call, which is great when
Impressive.
you have
Hmm.
two sons and stinky clothes from sports. So that's good. And I got a call from my 85-year-old mother that she won a golf match and beat a 30-year-old. So listen, you talk about inspiration. Got the laundry done, and my mother is still amazing at 85.
I, it's already overperforming than my good achievements of the day. And for me, it's only 11 a.m. I think that baby one woke me up, then woke up baby number two, and I was already up at 4 a.m. And my accomplished was, yeah, cooked dinner. It's a slow roast. It's still in the oven. Or and organize the bed. My wife will be proud of me.
Oh, that's
But
fantastic.
no. It's a philosophy that you see that also in the internet in all kinds of podcasts, and it's something that you know from my army service is like no matter what, it's like the day's shitty, you're full of grime. The end of the day arrives, you take a shower, and you have a clean, made up bed to go
Yes.
to. So
Yes.
it's that happy something to expect that
Yes.
it creates some sort of a reset. It doesn't matter
Yes.
that in 2 hours someone will wake you up, but that's
Yeah.
between us.
Yeah. Well, I
But
agree with you. I love a made up bed. And to walk into that at night, I'm with you. I'm trying to evoke that onto my twin sons at 15 that they should do that as well. We're getting there. We're getting there.
oh, teenagers, no,
Yes.
that's tough.
Yeah,
That's
we're in it. We're in it deep. Yeah, two 15-year-olds.
and you have a startup. The startup is also how long have you been in business? 10 years?
It's been in business since 2017, so we're 9 years in.
Nine
We split
years.
off from the mothership in 2012. Our machine learning models of these claim cases came with us, and we became our own legal entity in 2017. So 9 years in, we're mature.
Yes, yeah. So how about usually we start with a little bit of a hobby and give a little bit more, opportunity to talk the round about, sorry, the round character of the person that we are talking with. But let's jump directly into the company. What
Oh,
do you
that's
guys
great.
do?
Yeah, so CLARA Analytics is a leading claims AI platform. It's the reason why its name is CLARA Analytics is because the AI delivers the analytics and the intelligence and helping the claims professional make a judgment call and a decision on a claims file. So after a first notice of loss, we receive the case. It can be in a workers' comp, it could be an auto liability or a general liability situation. And because our models have learned on about 10 million cases over, the last 10 years, we've seen that case before. And so we know, what the predicted treatment plan should be, the predicted cost. We're constantly, 24/7 surrounding that file for the adjuster and looking for anything that could take the case off its trajectory course. We're looking for an opportunity to close the case, to settle it, to get the claimant back to the right place. We look for subro, we look for abuse and fraud. We're looking for the right physician. We're looking at potential for litigation. We're really trying to get the case to the optimal path. So it's good for the claimant and good for the employer or the carrier. So we provide that. And then we also provide intelligence off of what's going on in the claim shop. People like to leverage CLARA's analytical services because we're able to tell you what's going on in your claim shop. Are you overly litigated? Is something going on in this zip code that we're seeing that you're not seeing? The claims intelligence part of it is really powerful beyond the AI models working on a 24/7 basis around those files.
Now, you're working mainly with insurance carriers, TPAs. Who are your clients?
Yeah, so we do work with everybody in the ecosystem. Our clients are every tier of a carrier, tier one down to a tier five carrier. We work in the self-insured space, so we have a lot of corporates, and
Okay.
within the corporates, it's a triaging with us, their core system, and many times their TPA, so that they can get the intelligence for Claire, while the others are doing kind of the administrative work. We do work with CPAs, and we also work with brokers as well. So, everybody's looking for, I call it, I give it this analogy, the ways of their claims cases. So help direct our cases for us. Tell us the path that we should take, and we'll make the final decision. So yeah, we work with just about everybody in this very complicated insurance ecosystem.
And I'm sure that we can go down a rabbit hole for each one of them, but I'm very curious. How do you work with the brokers?
Yeah, so the brokers, some of them white label some of our products so that on behalf of their corporates, they're using some of our products. It could be in a litigation sense, it could be in a triaging sense. So we end up being one of their triaging platforms that they help to deliver risk analytics for their corporates. And so we provide that platform service for the brokers to their carrier client or to their corporate clients.
That makes sense. It's interesting to see. Okay, corporates. We are talking about that type of broker. So it's not a manpower brokerage. Or let's get insurance for a S&P. It's mainly
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So a
Yeah.
little bit more on the bigger ones that serve a little bigger clients in that space. Is there a difference for them in terms of how they use the tools or their approach? Because we get, and we'll jump to talk about AI because we
Mm,
cannot avoid talking about AI.
right.
But before, well, it's everything. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. You gave me already a few hooks just to go and start talking about that. Yeah, of course.
Look, for us, size doesn't matter. It comes down to the quality of the data, no matter if you're a tier one carrier or you're a tier five, tier six carrier. Some people have their data, they know the residency of the data, they know, they have their data already standardized and normalized. It's very rare to have that situation because most of the time for us, we're receiving the data from a core system of our TPA. And so the beauty that we've been able to do is because we grew up with not only our data moat, but our transformational moat layer. So we're able to transform the data no matter what state it's in, no matter where it resides, no matter the quality of it, no matter, how it needs to be mapped and normalized. We do all that heavy lifting. So it's really kind of data engineering as a service. It makes the implementation a little bit longer because the
Mm-hmm.
quality of your data depends on how long our data engineering as service, the engines have to go to work. But it's quicker than any carrier would be able to do it on their own. And I know that, having been a chief data officer of a very large tier one carrier. So I think the difference is really, it's not even a volume, a velocity, it's the state of the quality of their data. And we have to just make sure that we can get it to the enrichment that it needs to be, the standardization, the normalization, and the mapping of it. And then everybody's at the same level and can start to use our models, use our alerts, our triggers, use our intelligence, and go to work using our platform. So yeah, we try to get everybody to the same place from a data perspective.
Well, I think that you mentioned like the magic word here, which is data. And the challenge there is like garbage in, garbage stays, especially if the data is not structured, not clean, all the sicknesses that we've seen, different carriers, brokers. I don't know how much. Brokers are always a question because what type of a broker and do they really have the type of a IT budget to fix what they have or what they don't
Right,
have? Because usually it's a pass through at
right.
best. And then what do they do with data? Because, and are you helping them to digest it, to clean it? Because otherwise, your engine will not really work as it should.
Yeah, so we have three forms of data that are very important for us to be able to triage claims cases on a daily basis. So there's that data that an adjuster just puts in fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just structured data in a system. And many times the fill rate is single digits. It's very poorly done. And that just comes down to adjuster behavior. The second type of data, they're really, really good at this, is their notes. They write beautiful notes like a novel about the case. They update it. They're telling the story about the case that's going on. The third type of data is what's going on in the documents. So that can be medical documents, police reports, legal documents. So what we do, we know the first type of data is going to be probably subpar. So our models work the best off of the notes and off of the documents. And that's where we get 80%, 85% of the story, and the 85% that continues to dynamically update the story on a daily basis. When an alert or trigger goes off to the claims professional and they have to go into the case, they haven't looked at the case for 90 days. Guess what? We're telling you what's going on. Here's the summary. Here's the insight. So, we don't just rely on the data out of fields. That's not going to get us to where we can give them insights and AI, output from the AI models. We use the adjuster notes and we use the documents, and that gives us the ability to really triage cases.
So basically, you're solving them, let's call it the last mile problem of
Totally.
data, because we always talked about back in the day, how fast your
Totally.
internet, that's the last mile,
Right.
it's everything. Can you get that in terms of speed, in terms of the data? And then, by the way, is that also impact in terms of the decision making, or is only here's the data, here are insights, the decision is yours?
So I'll tell you, we don't move forward in our implementation until we have the data that we need, because we know we will not be able to give them the outputs on the case and the insights to make that decision and judgment call. So if we have to delay an implementation by 6 weeks to go back and forth to get, whether it's that structured data, it may be two fields that we need. It could be the litigation is involved, right? Or the name of the lawyer. We will make sure that we have, at least a certain amount of fill rate done, and that we've got access to the notes and the documents are coming in. We don't move forward without that because we know that it won't work on the other side of it. So it's very important for us to have everything stood up. We have the type of conversations with them that we know. It's like a doctor. Listen, I'm going to have to go and do surgery. I don't know what I'm going to see, but this is the contract, and we're going to have to go through discovery, and we're going to probably have to go back and forth and do some biopsies to figure out what's going on here. We do the same thing. And so once we have the data in the right place, we've got everything ready, then it bursts into the models, and the model starts to learn this is how this particular carrier has treated cases over the last 5 years. So we have to baseline and understand how you have treated cases because we want the models to do better. We want the models to help treat the cases better. And so we want to be able to give, contribution of the models to that. And so once we've learned the models are going to work, then the alerts and the triggers start to come through to the claims professional. And it's just like Waze. It's sending you an alert and saying, listen, you should think about rerouting this case. You should think about using a different provider. You should think about the reserving, may need to be upped. But you have to make the final call. You're the driver of the case as the claims professional. You make the judgment call, which route to take. Maybe it's time to, to settle and make payment. The second thing that we do is obviously we provide insights. So not only are we giving, financial outcomes because we're closing cases, we're helping to settle, we're helping to get the medical costs down with the rate, treatment providers. So we're giving you that ROI within 3 to 6 months, but we're also helping you with operational efficiency and those financial outcomes too. And so, there's been times where, there's been over reserved situation and by millions. And we've been able to get that reserving to a better place. And that reserving can go back and have that capital, used in other parts of the organization. We've had situations where, a low severity case comes in, but with more medical documentation coming in, the alerts are going off and it goes from a severity 1 to a severity 4. And the human eye may not have caught that because it's a finger cut. And that finger cut ends up being an amputation. And so if you're not following the case, but our models are, you're not seeing that you've got to up the reserve, that you have to get in there and look at a different treatment, that you have to make sure there's no litigation that's going to have to get involved. And that's a true case, by the way, that happened. And so once the claims professionals started understanding the alerts, they were able to really start to treat the case differently. You just don't know sometimes, and that's why having a second set of eyes of these AI models, just like Waze is a second set of eyes to me when I drive my car, whether I know the route or not. It's a safety net, a safety net for a claims professional that a model is detecting propensity of something that's going to happen or has just happened. And why not have a safety net? Why not have a safety net out there?
So I love that you already frame it as a safety net, because when we started to talk about AI, and not we as I'm talking about the general we, it sounds between it's like omnipotent or super limited, as here is a chat, like a chat with ChatGPT. I'm going to have a conversation, kind of like in between, versus it can do everything. It's going to replace all our jobs. We're not going to work, but you kind of frame it as like, listen, it's very straightforward. We're going to give you insights. We're going to tell you some sort of a prediction, what's going to be in a way, and give you a few options to decide where you're talking. You're going to reroute, you're the driver. And there is a question when your clients or customers working with you, what's their assumption versus, or what's they think that they're going to get versus the reality, right? It's not just about what the data that they have versus not, but it's like they are buying into a tool and they speculate like, oh my God, I'm going to have this amazing or very limited AI engine that's going to help me or replace me. And that I'm buying into.
Yeah, it's a very important part of our adoption and our change management. And that's why we usually work with the CEO and the chief claims officer to very much, from the very beginning, talk about, you will see tasks being automated as you continue to bring in automation within the workflow of how cases are treated, which is maybe a report is already, is generated for you. Okay. Maybe something is, a cover letter is already generated for you. Maybe someone has already sent something. But when it comes to, providing a second set of eyes from a augmentation of intelligence, that's where, especially a senior adjuster, we love it when they say, well, I knew that. I knew what the model was saying. And we're like, well, that's great. That's great if you knew that route already. Okay. And I know that as a driver sometimes, that I will know my route. But it's when the model catches something that you didn't catch. It's those moments that it's just the safety net that you want to have there, that maybe your eyes are tired looking at a document and there's something in that document that you need to see, that the model is going to catch it and serve it up to you. And it's going to be there. And maybe your eye saw it and maybe your eye didn't see it. And I think that's where CEOs and chief claims officers are, because, we're in a very litigious environment right now. And so they're dealing with more litigation. They're dealing with more medical costs. So the ability to be able to treat these cases and be able to catch things earlier is really, really important, because sometimes, that adjuster may be using the same medical office, and maybe there's a better provider on that case, in the same zip code. But let us give you options based on people that have treated these cases with a better, treatment outcome. And so, yeah, we have to really sit down and, make sure they understand it's an augmented intelligence, it's a safety net. You're making the judgment call on the case, but the model may pick up things that you may not pick up anymore because things are happening a lot faster than they used to.
Well, you mentioned your kids earlier, and I thought about it. It's like they are teenagers now, and
Yeah,
basically, it, the introduction of AI must definitely change how they perceive. I'm looking at my babies. They were born into AI already there, right? They
that's
don't
right.
touch it because they have no interaction. And I think about this is more or less where I was, well, I give 2 years, 3 years there, plus minus, when the internet started.
Right.
I
That's
remember
right.
when I was a kid, it was like black and white TV, and later on, more than cable, etc. And then, yeah, when I was a teenager or a more mature teenager, internet, later on cell phones, and then smartphones. So it's a revolution. And now we have AI that we don't really say, oh, yeah, let me Google it. Or no, it's like, let me start
That's
to have
right.
a full conversation with AI. And there are, as they grow up, it's going to be, yeah, it completely makes sense. It's standard, it's default.
It's interesting because I said I had twin sons, and it's interesting because I think education, finance, medical, I think those areas are really being impacted very early by that. And in just a couple of ways that I see it, you know, my kids, right, they're in physics honors, and they use an AI physics teacher to
Mm,
interact with, to,
okay.
upload the images of their problem sets and help them look at different ways to attack the problem, the art and the science of it. Then they ask for, you know, give me, more tests, give me some more tests, give me multiple choice, give me open ended. So they're using it in a way to help teach them differently, that there may be addressing a gap that happens in a classroom with a human teacher. So that's one way that they're using it. I think another way is, when I take my 85-year-old mother to the dentist, all the images are uploaded and the AI dentist is giving, the diagnosis. And then the human dentist is sitting there and saying, okay, well, the AI dentist has been able to take all your medical records, all your medications, all the images, and start to come out with different ways that we should attack this. And let the human come in then and talk about how do we want to do this to give it, a relationship. That's how, insurance is too, in my opinion, because something bad's happened. And so there's a claimant who does need still a human many times, that they do want to make sure a claim's being processed through to get to payment or how they're dealing with something. And, the AI is going to continue to help the human adjuster get through the case
Hmm.
and the best possible outcome. But, other than making the judgment call, there is that engagement with the claimant that I think is still really necessary in many complex cases. Some of the lower severity cases, it's just a fender bender and it can just go on to payment and just be done. But some of these cases are pretty complex, and especially in a workers' comp, that they need a human to interact with in some of these situations. And that's how I think about it.
And no, it's a great point because I was trying to lead towards the future of work. And as your kids, my kids, or the next generation, or the next 5 years, right? I think that there was a singularity supposed to be somewhere in 31 or 32. But who knows how that's going to be. We have, as we haven't been in the future, we are focusing on today. It's basically between augmenting AI at
Yeah.
our workflow
Yeah.
versus, as you said, simple cases we can just automate it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I mean, if I even think about the role of finance, right? I mean, I grew up with these spreadsheets and having to spend so much time preparing the spreadsheets and putting the data in. If you look at an analyst now, they don't have to worry about all of the prep of the data anymore. Okay. They just load it into a model. Their focus is more on analyzing. So it's totally shift because of the ability to quickly get, a cognitive AI model to give them different scenarios and simulations of the financial data. They used to spend more time on the prep. Now they have to really be strong analysts now.
Yeah. Let's give a little bit of love for the audience who are more on the entrepreneurial side, the different startups and other folks who are thinking, it's like, okay, great. You've been around for 9 years. You have clients from, we say, brokers, carriers, big and small and everything. You've done well. You can answer or don't answer. Where are you in terms of revenue or funding maturity?
Yeah, I mean, not from a revenue, but we've gone through a Series C financing, so we've gone
Okay.
through that
That
level.
gives people a certain better feeling of understanding where you guys stand, because I'm sure there is a certain revenue and EBITDA that will justify Series C and the
Right,
valuation that you received with that. We
right.
don't need uh, to add the numbers to that. People can, I don't know, use a pitch book to figure that out by themselves. But giving a little bit for those who are at the beginning, seed, pre-seed,
Yeah,
one of the challenges that we see within the insurance industry is the endless pilots and
yes,
POCs, kind of like you go nowhere.
that's right.
And how do you overcome that? And especially when it comes to AI, which every startup now is AI. What are the challenges? What will be your wisdom that you
Yeah.
can share with people?
Yeah, it's very difficult in the insurance industry because we are risk averse, and that's how carriers and corporates
No.
too, right? Because you're selling to
Are
risk
we?
managers. And so, being risk averse, they do want the evidence and substantiation that this works in their lab. I think one of the things that we did early on is that we found a non-pilot client that we could very quickly get outcomes. So we could show that it wasn't a matter of velocity or volume or data, that we were able to quickly, onboard, and within 3 months we were able to give some really substantial outcomes to them. And the other thing that is really difficult on these carriers and is the integration points. So because we're so complicated, it's not like we all orchestrate data. Okay, it's very broken and fragmented across the broker, across the TPA, across the core system, and an InsurTech. And so, for us being able to say, listen, we don't care where your data is. It could be in 10 different places. We don't care. We just hook up our pipes, we pull that data and ingest it, and we can do all of the data engineering. That was something that really was appealing to people, that we could be that data orchestration layer for them. And they didn't have to go out and tell every 10 of their, places that had some of their data, that they had to work with us. We're like, no, we're here. We'll just hook up and pull the data. So I think getting an outcome very early on was important. I think not being you know, just a one-off type of standalone type of solution. Like, we absolutely work within the workflow of a core
Mm-hmm.
system or within a TPA, right, or a broker. So we're really integrated in a workflow. So that stickiness is really important. You don't want to be able just to be cut off at the knees and not be in an important organ of their, of their ecosystem. So yeah, you've got to be able to show that you can scale, that you can give them an outcome, that an AI platform delivers something, insightful for them that they can take, right to a business leader that's leading a business line, and then being able to make the integrations easy on them. That's really, really important too. Like, we rarely work with IT because we just hook up the pipes and off we go. So people like that a lot.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest challenges part of procurement, etc., you need to understand beside who's your river guide within the organization is the political capital that one needs to exert over there to make that happen, right? It's not just the budget owner or who has
That's
the right
right.
incentive. And I love the fact that you pointed that, yeah, you're working with chief claim officer, with the CEO.
CEOs,
I would
totally.
say CEO is the best,
It is the
but
best.
they sometimes they don't have the bandwidth, or they will be, empowering their executives and provide it or to the chief claim, or sometimes the claims is under the COO or the CFO because they need to pay closer attention to the budget. And especially when it comes to claims, you want to make sure that those budgets are those specific that specific capital is there and there. And we can dive into surplus notes and what it means for everything, but different story.
I think what's important for us is, I think why we get so many CEOs involved with the chief claims officer is because there's something going on with their medical costs or their indemnity costs, and they're trying to bring in that claims expense. And
Yeah,
so, within 6 to 9 months, we're already giving them 2 to 3% loss cost savings. So they're already paying for the contract, and getting the ROI. And so I think when
but
you
that's a
can,
hard sell. That's such a hard sell. One of the things that, improving claims, which is, in my opinion, is the easiest way to prove your value
it
and
is,
cut costs and
it
improve the
is,
profitability of the company.
it
It's
is,
such
it
a
is.
hard sell in insurance. We are going to make it more profitable and not increase your revenue.
Yep,
Mm,
exactly. But we because we've been able to do that with our clients, with our customer segment, they help me as reference to get my next, customers. And so um, it's very important when we start our engagement that we have those metrics lined up. We're not
mhm.
just this AI platform delivers analytics. I have a CEO that because we helped him with his over reserving by millions, and the only way we were able to do that is because his adjusters actually took action on the alerts that Clara was sending them. So when the claims professionals are acting on the alerts and taking action of what Claire's telling them do, right? Then that rolls up to an aggregated financial outcome for a
Mhm.
CEO because you're bringing the cases in, right? The cost is coming in. You may be settling, sending it to payment earlier. So when it gets to that point, the CEO's like, no, I need you to adopt this because it rolls up to an aggregated financial outcome for our organization. And so that's the type of setup that we implement.
But since the let's call it the beginning of InsurTech, which let's age it at 10 years, maybe
10
9
years.
years,
Yeah.
10 years. Let's
Yeah,
age it
10
at
years.
10 years. And the, now, having said that, there were other vendors before InsurTech, right?
That's right.
So, but in the past 10 years, InsurTech became like a cool thing within the industry. How do you see the openness of the different carriers and big brokers to adopt and to provide the data? I know that you talked about that you hardly need to work with IT, which is great because that's a different type of silo organization. But how do you see a change in how they are open to share the data, open an API if they have an API, or you know
Yeah.
create some sort of a hook to the core system?
Yep. So I'd answer that in two ways. So Um, if there's a single tenant where they can share the data and the model can work just for them, okay? And so they'll just get their view. But we're multi-tenant, we're a contributory database. So if you not only give us your data, but allow us to aggregate it and anonymize it, then you get the benefit of our entire customer base and how that
Well, I'm sure
manifests
that's
itself.
freaking out a few CISOs, but yeah.
It doesn't. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, because the benefit many times outweighs. So I'll give you an example. Because it's so litigious right now, if you contribute your data, it's aggregated and anonymized. Let's say you have a case in Omaha, Nebraska, and you've never
Mm-hmm.
ever litigated there, you can go in, and because you have put your data in, you're able to see all of the plaintiffs and defendants across our panels in Omaha, Nebraska, versus prior to that, you would have just been like, okay, I'm going to have to go out and call people or whatever. So there's a benefit of having an industry database, industry intelligence, for benchmarking, for panel selection, both on provider and litigation, for scoring, that people see as a benefit because it's aggregated and anonymized. It's not like anybody's going to know, well, this is so-and-so's carrier's data, or this is so-and-so carrier's data. That's not even how it's, architected. So, I think 10 years ago, like even 9 years ago, when CLARA started, there was apprehension to it, but because they needed the industry scores and the industry data, it's been a benefit to them.
So let me ask you the last question that in one way or the other, I'm asking everyone at the end. What should people pay more attention to as it relates to, in this case, AI, if it's in claims or underwriting or in insurance in general?
So listen, I think before I leave this industry, I'd love to have the two brought together. And that's what we do at CLARA. So it's the right hand and the left hand. So if that policyholder has a claim, something going on with it, that claims intelligence needs to go over to the actuarial or the policy intelligence. And so the full intelligence, the AI, should be working on both sides of it. So if the case is getting closed, something's happening, then the AI model should be telling the actuarial AI model or the policy AI model, this is what's going on. It's going to impact what's happening with the policyholder. It's going to impact what's happening with the reserving. So I believe the full AI intelligence should be worked on because the left and the right hand need each other to speak.
So basically, close the loop and
Yes.
move the business wheel forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Heather, it was a pleasure having you on the InsurTechTalk podcast. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.